Welcome back, riders. It's been a while since my first podcast. This is actually, I guess, would be the second first episode. I hadn't really planned on the first episode being the first episode. I got a stroke of luck when I asked Brian Kennedy to be interviewed on the first podcast, and he had a great time. We had a great time. That time was a great time. If you hadn't seen that, you need to check it out. Good 30 minutes with Brian. Uh, I'll post that up here on my Facebook page as well. But yeah, so I'm ready to do the second episode. And I kind of want to give you all some background on me and what I've done with bikes and other stuff. And uh, my whole mission on this podcast is to keep the stoke alive, especially as we get older. And even for younger riders who think they're never going to get old, you're always going to get older, and that's just unavoidable. So even if you are older, there are things that you can do to slow the process down a little bit. And I'm going to walk through some of those ideas and things that we've got planned for you coming up. But so that's my whole idea of the vision, kind of for the podcast, and the Facebook analog to to the podcast is facebook.com/TAMB podcast. And I'm going to put up links and pictures and stuff and interactive stuff there as well. But personally, I've been an athlete my whole life. I ran track all through, junior high. Played baseball, soccer. Played soccer for many years. I actually started skateboarding probably when I was 9 or 10, and that would have been like 75 or six. And I was a ranked skater by the early 80s. Like I said, I played all the sports, and actually I was short for a kid, and I played basketball for a year, which was didn't work out that well, but it was actually my only foray into basketball. But I've done tons of sports, always ridden bikes. Um, I've started riding bikes. I was born in 1966. I would say the first time I was on a bike was probably 1970, and it wasn't my bike. It was probably one of my parents' bikes. I think I remember the bike. It was a big old Schwinn. My dad had a big thing, probably weighed 3 times my weight, but it was yeah. We didn't really have balance bikes back then, so it wasn't really a thing for little kids to ride. But always loved bikes. So I started riding mountain bikes. I had BMX bikes all growing up, 10 speeds. I was all over Houston with my on bikes, and grew up around Rice University, and was always riding around and skateboarding around there. I was just having a good time as a kid. But even then, early on, before that, I grew up outside of Houston, in a town called Friendswood, and in the woods, more or less. And it's not in the woods anymore, but it was in the woods back then. And so we would always, go out and build jumps out in the woods and the trees and the forest, build jumps and all those kinds of fun things. So it was an amazing time. Kind of ignited my whole love for biking, and that was kind of how it started, I guess. And then, but even as I got into junior high, when we moved into Houston, there was a ride. It's still happening. It's probably even bigger than it is now in Houston, called the Moonlight Ramble, and it's basically started at midnight downtown Houston, and it's a loop that goes around. It's been ever forever since I've ridden it, but you're able, to ride with a huge. There's got to be hundreds or even probably thousands of people at this point. Back then, it was definitely hundreds and maybe even 1,000. Remember exactly, but you ride through all Memorial Park and the whole area in downtown Houston, and you could smell the whiff of ganja in the air, which was hilarious when I was a kid. Didn't really know what that was, but seventh grade, I was like, "What is?" Not really sure, but so anyway, it's still going on. I've looked it up recently. It's still happening, which is amazing. But we did that, and we get back to the house like 4 in the morning, and my mom and one of my friends were all just like, this was an amazing time. So um, that was a great early memory of things that I did on bikes, and then as I got older, went off to college, with skateboarding and all this, and then I would say 86 I graduated high school in 84. I would say 86, I think, is the first year I had a mountain bike. And that was hilarious because by today's standards, it's completely different from what a mountain bike is today. Or it was, I don't even know what you would call it. It was more like a sort of an off road thing, but it was called a Spalding Velocity. And I'll put this up on my Facebook page for the podcast. And it's I kept bending the fork. So I kept going back to the bicycle sports shop and said, God, I need another fork. I don't know what the hell's wrong with this thing. So it was just, I was just kind of not really using it what it was designed to do. What was it designed to perform as? So then I went, and then I finally, I was in college at the time. I said, Mom, Dad, I need a bike. Can we do something here? And it's like, yes. And yeah, she bought me that bike too. But then we said, well, go to the bicycle sports shop back when it was on Bart Springs. And I bought one of the rental rock hoppers in 88, must have been 87 or 88. And that was the game changing bike. Oh, and there's another one that comes after that, but that bike was the shit. And it was obviously rigid, um, but durable. I could actually do things with it. I could go down to the Greenbelt, which I lived near right next to it. So I would always go down there, ride the Greenbelt on that bike. And then before I lived right off of Robert E. Lee back then. Now it's called like Hazel. I don't remember the name of the street now, but it's something different. Hazel Morton or whatever it is, right off of Bard Springs. And right down the Greenbelt was like right next to me, and I ride back and forth to campus a couple times a day for class, um, and then finally, when I started to work at the sports shop, not technically, actually was Hill Abel's computer guy. So I wasn't really on the payroll. So what Hill would do is he would credit me with for however many hours I would spend with him in a week. He'd credit me and give me store credit. So I had I was completely outfitted, great gear. And then in 92, when I graduated from UT, I got a nice check from my parents as a reward for my effort, and bought a 92 stump jumper with the very very first bike from Specialized that had a suspension fork. So it's probably about that much travel. I still have the bike. It's actually been restored by Andre Kashkin, who's did a kick-ass job, and it's actually rides better than new, better than I remember it. For a bike that's 30 something years old now. But that was the game changer when I was able, go from a rigid to a bike that had suspension was just it's amazing. It's funny actually. I'm thinking about it. There was another bike there that when I was at the sports shop that um, it was a prototype. Specialized gave Hill to use or whatever, demonstrate with people who wanted to ride it. Actually, I took it out and went riding around back down campus and stuff. And I got a flat. So I actually had to stop at Freewheeling Bikes there on 24th or 26th, 24th in San Gabriel, kind of in that area. And I walked in with this bike, and these paper buddies flipped out like, what the fuck is this? Where is this? What, did you come from outer space? And so anyway, yeah. But I have a lot of good, a lot of good memories with like cool mountain bike stuff like that. But so anyway, that it was my kind of early on. I think probably say I've ridden a mountain bike every year since about 88, 87, 88, and some years more than the last. I'm running a ton more in the last 6 to 10 years. That many thousands of miles, more than 100 miles or 100 miles, something like that. But it's been a consistent thing throughout my life. And again, I've ridden mountain bikes for forever. So, yeah, I just kind of want to give you some background on what I'm talking about. I'm not, the whole idea of the podcast is to win the war against time. That's an unwinnable battle. You're not going to win it. You can maybe win some battles along the way, and you're not going to lose. You're going to lose the war because we're all going to die. We're all going to get older. We're going to get slower, and as we get older, I'm not a wizard. I'm not going to give you the secret, the of youth or anything like that. But I think there are some things that I could share with you um, that will help you to progress. And 56, and I want to keep hitting bigger things. I want to ride harder and faster, and I want to just get better. And so all of those things mean that I want to progress my skills, and that means riding bigger, gnarlier stuff. And I think there's a tendency where a lot of riders will just want to just kind of like, oh, I can't anymore as I'm getting older. I really feel like that. I feel like for me personally, I want to just get, I want to get more rad than I've been. And so I think I'm pretty good. And I think I have a good attitude that I want to share, and maybe it'll help you with yours to be able to, keep the stoke alive and even increase it. So, um, every episode of the podcast, I'm going to have a little challenge, and be like a thing that you can maybe implement into your riding each year or each ride that you're going to just get better with and do a little bit better, and then a little bit better, a little bit better, like sort of baby steps. So really not going to be focused on how to do things. I think there's plenty of, and also a lot of confusing material about there, how to do things and how to like techniques and things like that. I'm not sure I'm really going to get into that because I don't know that I don't have the technique that, I mean, I'm not sure that my technique is always the best. So what value would there be in me teaching technique? It's really like more about attitude and about how to approach, this whale you're trying to conquer. And like, let's say there's a feature there you're nervous about hitting, and like, how do you how do you think about doing it, not how do you do it? So I think inside of here is where a lot of the, yeah, I mean, honestly, it's where everything is. It's like where your brain is where you're thinking about what you're able to do. And so making sure that you're mentally in the right place, or that you're thinking about it in the right way, that you can actually do it. It's better than for me than to say, well, this is how you do it. It's like, I'm not sure really, I mean, technique it's a pretty wide ranging thing. Like there's one rigid way to make sure that you're going to be able to do something. So, and like I said, there's tons of places where you can actually go in and talk about, or watch YouTube videos, and there's great, people who are going to could help you how to learn how to ride things. And, um, but again, I'm not really interested in that. I'm not going to get involved in like, is it flats or clipless better, or should I go tubeless? Yeah, you should. But, I'm not going to really care about that. Or, what's better for me, 29, 27.5. Personally, for me, it's 27.5 because I'm, 5'8". I think that's a better fit for me. And I haven't really felt too comfortable with the 29s that I've ridden over the years. But, yeah, I'm not really going to debate all that. It's just, this is like, oh, wait, I won't say this. I would say String versus Shimano, but I do understand that Trend, they also have great equipment as well. But I've always ridden Shimano, and even on the '92 Stump Jumper, I had which I think is weird, but the flagship bike for Specialized in '92 that I bought brand new from the Bicycle Sport Shop was didn't have XT. So Hale recommended that. I said, I agreed. Yeah, I think that's what I want. I want the XT, and but it must have been SLX back then, whatever. But so I've always ridden Shimano. Shimano's been, I think there's the shit. And I think they got a great history of, great equipment and things like that. All right. So the rest, the idea of the podcast as well, I want to be having, like, my first episode was with Brad Kennedy. I want to have guests, other industry luminaries and supporters, and maybe, I've been on the board for the Austin Ridge Riders for 3 years now. We have other members come in and do interviews and things like that. definitely interested in doing that and having, you know, bring people in, other important people in the business, and interested in doing that. Other YouTubers as well. Sponsors, I like to get into workouts and stretching, uh, how to this and for the cats. And then also and nutrition, balance. I was in my, I guess I was 40 when I started Taekwondo, and I was retired. I retired from the sport in 48 when I was 48. So second degree black belt, super flexible um, during that period, and in great shape. And I think stretching is an important part of riding and just anything athletics. So I'm going to walk through some things that one of my sponsors is called Dynamic Cyclist, and I want to highlight some of those things as well. They're amazing. They're like the programs they have. It's $9, $10 a month, and if you sign up with me, you get a 10% discount. And that means it's like $9. But I'll give you the information. I can link all that on my Facebook page. So I want to do product reviews, other reviews of content that's on YouTube's, and I've tried to get Brian Kennedy to come to Austin. He's working on him, but I don't know if there's anything that's can happen anytime real soon. But um, I just really also want to make sure that everything is inclusive, and so you know I think there's a certain portion of anything, I guess, really, but any mountain biking, there's always going to be a percentage of mountain bikers who are kind of dicks. And so just don't be a dick. And so just be a nice guy, be a nice person, leave the ego behind. It doesn't matter, just keep the stoke high and just help others get stoked. And that's the key. So there's things like I want to have, RLAG, which is one of the Ridge Riders programs, which has been around the longest, been around since probably 30 years now. Um, it's for women to ride together and help them get stoked on riding. And so there's, I want to bring in some other people that talk about that, to promote that because it's an amazing program. And just, like on Strava, if you use Strava, which you probably do, but, um, you know, give people kudos, even if they just go out for a walk, you know, what's the harm? And so encourage people and say, hey, man, fuck yeah, dude, go for it. And, even that goes out, when you're even just out riding, that just be positive and just be supportive and be a nice person when you're passing people or hiking or jogging or whatever. And if you just want to be quiet, that's fine too. But just don't be a dick. It's really pretty simple. I love the quote. Mr. Rogers, probably dating myself there, but he says always look for the helpers and look for people who are just building up rather than tearing down. So there's plenty of opportunities to be a good person. So take advantage of those. So I want to invite you to subscribe to my podcast. And I think, I've got a Patreon page. I'm going to put all this, I've got all this set up, but I'm going to link all this up in my Facebook page for the podcast, which is again, TAMB podcast on Facebook. And you could probably just Google it, but you can go to facebook.com/TAMB, the Ageless Mountain Biker podcast. And then you can get to that page. So, yeah, a couple of last things, I guess probably part of what I want to chronicle is riding, just different places. Turns out, over the last 6 years or so, I think we went to Bentonville, Northwest Arkansas, about 6 years ago. Probably six now. Yeah, probably coming up on seven. Don't even go to Bentonville anymore. No, it's not entirely true. We'll go, and but the best riding is not in Bentonville. I don't know if you know this or not. Bentonville's good. Back 40 is amazing. Little Sugar's okay. Blowing Springs is incredible. But the best riding is actually a little bit east of there. So things like Great Passion Play, Eureka Springs, there, Lake Leatherwood. And then you've got Nebo, you've got Slamo, you've got uh, Upper Buffalo Headwater, the Upper Buffalo Headwaters Trail, which is one of my favorites out there. Epic, 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 epic. So we'll talk about rides and we'll talk about all those things that we're doing out there, and we're traveling on different road trips and stuff. So it's pretty exciting what's going on. There's tons of growth in this space. There's a lot of things happening in Austin. There's tons of new things that are going on as far as like new places to ride, and it's pretty exciting. So next, we're going to talk about what I think Brian Kennedy calls flow momentum. I want to talk about racing. I want to talk about what are you trying to do as your bike? What scares you? What makes you nervous about riding? Are you trying to get over a thing that you're just terrified of? And I want to help you mentally think through like what you should do to kind of, you know, mentally get prepared for it. And I don't really care about, oh, you gotta like this position, you gotta have your bike centered over your bike, and like I give a shit about that because I think that kind of goes by feel if you've been riding for a period of time. Maybe you need that if you're a new rider, but as personally, I don't know that that benefits me because I don't. I mean, it's a lot of that's kind of by instinct, but I think the biggest hurdle for a lot of riders is the mental part. Is like, how do you just you just flip out on something because you think it's too big or you're too scared. It's just sketching you out. So I want to help. I think that's the biggest part of riding mountain bikes, and is how you approach things and what you're thinking of when you're actually coming up to that thing that you're scared of. I've ridden the green belt since the '80s, and I consider myself a pretty technical rider, and I feel like I have a pretty good approach or mental mm, angle on it. I've also got a couple of different um, takes on it too. I think if you're like, oh, I can do anything, like yeah, right, you probably can't, but maybe you can, and that's not the point. But I've had the luck where I'm gonna elucidate on this a lot more in future episodes. But I'm like I'm like sometimes I think, well, I'm not sure I got it today. I'm not sure I can do it, and then I'm like, oh fuck yeah, I can do it. And then I just pound it out and I nail it. Sometimes that works like that too. So sometimes if you're like you're I can do anything, or I can do this, or I can do that, and then you don't do it, and then you're kind of just disappointed. So it kind of is like, oh, fuck. I feel like I don't know that that's the right attitude either, right? So sometimes um maybe it is thinking that you're doubting yourself a little bit, and you push because of that. So I'm really gonna get deep into that one because I think that's actually been a thing that's helped me a lot. But again, all I want to do is help you guys increase your stoke, keep it up, keep it alive, increase it, because guess who's getting older? Everyone is, and so I'm going to be 57 here in a few months, and I want to share with you some ideas that I think that have been helpful for me as an athlete for forever that can help you do what I did. And so if you're younger, I think that there are things that you really ought to take into your riding, into your athletic activities, not just from in biking, but just in your attitude in general. I mean, just like how you live, like, oh, get so I can't. Well, that's probably why you can't. So, just think you can, and you probably will be able to. So, um, That's it. I'm gonna be able to slow the clock down. I mean, that's really all I can do is just kind of slow it down. Not, it's not gonna stop it. We're not gonna, we're not gonna win the war against age and dying. But I feel like I've been pretty. Most of the time, I think people don't realize that I am my age, and because it's always been that way. I mean, ever since I was, you know, even in my 20s. But I feel like, and it's kind of a mixed blessing, but I guess I'll take it because it's kept me young, and it's been something that's been like kind of slowed the clock down a little bit. So that's been um, it's been a nice thing, and so, but yeah. So I want to have I want you to frame a vision of yourself in a way that it's going to kind of go beyond writing. What is this talk in your brain that you're doing when you're writing and other activities that, what are you telling yourself? Is it positive? Do you feel like, are you encouraging you in a way that's going to say you can or you can't do something? Is that how you're looking at what you're doing? I mean, that's like, it's pretty important how you perceive the activity. And it's actually pretty cool. I was 60 when I was growing up. My grandmother was always a little old lady, and she was 94 when she died, probably like 2005. But she was always this tiny little old lady that I just, you know, and she was probably, I don't even know. I mean, 60, if that, I don't even know. And now 60, I'm almost 60. And so it's like, I think the attitude or the perception of age is a lot different now, in a better way, because we're, maybe COVID impacted the age life expectancy, but it is that we are living longer and healthier lives for the most part. Of course, there's a subset of people who are just not doing that, but so I think we are a more youthful culture in general in terms of athletics and uh, activities, active things that people are doing. But and I think that's an advantage. So that's actually a good thing. And also, setting realistic goals. I think you can set huge goals that you never reach and you get frustrated because you don't. But helping, having them in your head or writing them down is a big difference. It all depends on how seriously you want to take your progression. You want to, is there a thing that you're just trying to do, like a feature you're trying to hit, or are you just want to get better? You just want to get faster? You just trying to lose weight or get more fit, things like that. I mean, longer, you want to harder and increase your speed or just go longer, bigger or higher, things like that. Climbing, which is one of the things that I'm going to be um, harping on, if that's the right word for it or not, but climbing is something that I feel like I could offer, ways that you can increase how much better you can be at climbing. But whatever it is, it begins in your head. And so everything is in here. Of course, your muscles are not in your head. They're, they're in your arms and your legs and things, but how you think about it is where it all starts. So if you're fearful, or if you're excited, or if if you're just ambivalent, it's all begins in here. It's all up in here. So um, you know, bite off small chunks. We want to not be like all of a sudden be a maniac, because that doesn't really. I don't think that's as sustainable. We want to build good habits and build an attitude towards what you're trying to do and what you're trying to where you're trying to take your writing to is going to be a much better way to think of it. So if there's things like if you can, there's things that you're scared about as a future you're scared of hitting, and you want to take small steps through it. And um, I would say most of the time that you do that thing, finally, that thing that scared you for weeks or months, you do it the first time, and it's usually not as bad as you thought it was. And you usually go, wow, that's pretty fucking easy. So, there is. not always the case, but there's a lot of times that is true where you're just, you're sketched out by a thing and all of a sudden you just go for it and you do it and you're like, that was actually pretty easy. And you go do it 5 more times because it was amazing fun. So, so anyway, those are the things that we're going to be walking through. Um, yeah, I think, today I want you to think about, this is my challenge for today's episode. And one is to listen to yourself. What are you saying when you're going to go into a thing or into a trail or into a feature where you're scared and you're like, this is freaking me out. I'm scared. This is sketchy. And I want to bail. I want to just not be involved in any of this. But what is it you're telling yourself? Is it, I don't want you to be reckless and be like, oh, I can do anything, because I want you to make sure your skills can back up what the rest of your body is trying to do. But if you want to progress, and not everybody wants to, some people just want to just ride like they do, and that's fine. There's no problem. I have no problem, like supporting any of that. But if you're trying to push yourself, and to whatever degree you want to push yourself, um, what are you telling yourself when you're coming up to a feature where you're scared of, or you're just nervous about it? And so think about that, and then maybe put that into, you know, put that in a little box in your head and say, well, yeah, this is what I was thinking when I'm coming up to this thing. And so maybe next time when you come up to it, you can, if you really want to hit it, and you want to do that thing, then maybe you could say something different and say, hey, well, yeah, fuck yeah, I can do this. Or, oh yeah, I feel pretty good. Whatever it is. Maybe just sort of, change that language in your brain that you're going to uh, become more, more closer to hitting that thing that you're scared of. So that's kind of the basics, guys. I'm glad you're here. Again, if you missed the second, it was actually the second first episode, because it wasn't planned on being the first episode. Brian was gracious enough to spend 30 minutes with me on the first episode. Then life got in the way, and this year has been a crazy year, this 2022, but um, I'm finally able to get this second episode out. Technically, it would have been the first, but hope you'll subscribe, and I look forward to the next episodes and challenging you guys and like saying, I want to help you guys get better and have a attitude towards writing progression that will be helpful and just increase the stoke. So, thanks for hanging around, and we will see you soon. Bye bye.